Welcome. Many will contend that the Bible, in the event that it is to be paid attention to in any capacity, is about translation. Considering that, numerous who buy into the old space explorer hypothesis specifically accept the Bible to be flooded with UFO experiences and bound with cooperation between people and extraterrestrials. Surely, for them, it frames a great deal of the reason for their theory. While there is, obviously, no evidence to be offered to back up these cases, the understandings and how they are sorted out are entrancing in their own privilege and positively worth investigating. If just to pose the inquiry, what if our precursors truly were depicting experiences with shrewd creatures not of this world? 10. Jacob's Ladder. The narrative of Jacob's Ladder 1 has numerous translations. It includes Jacob, who while on his approach to Haran, chose to stop and rest for the night in light of the fact that the sun had gone down. While he dozed, he had an extraordinary dream of holy messengers of God who were rising and diving upon a flight of stairs laying on the earth, with its top venturing into heaven. As Jacob viewed the heavenly attendants, a voice rang out, and Jacob could see that the Lord remained above him in the heavens. The Lord educated Jacob to spread out toward the west, toward the east, toward the north and toward the south. Upon waking, Jacob seems to address if the fantasy was genuine when he thinks, clearly the Lord is in this spot, and I didn't know about it. Interpretations with an old outsider inclination to them propose that the holy messengers and the Lord were in truth extraterrestrials who had quelled Jacob so they could teach him on his best course of action and spread the name of God. For instance, speculatively, and tolerating for a second that Jacob's experience was a genuine story, would entrancing relapse have opened what truly occurred as he dozed? 9. Let us make mankind. The lines in Genesis 1:2, portraying the making of humankind have drawn consideration from old space explorer lovers hoping to show that individuals were not the after effect of a godlike God but instead of hereditary control performed by cutting-edge creatures not of this planet. So, aliens. The words us and are in a line, let us cause man in our picture to have been taken advantage of in certain corners as the conclusive evidence of the content. To them, this isn't just a reference to the makers of people being plural, proposing a gathering of makers, yet in all likeliness, a sign that they looked a ton, if not actually, similar to us. It's a long way from strong confirmation in any way, shape or form, however it's an interesting idea in any case and one that has been investigated in both fiction and true to life throughout the long term, maybe most as of late in the film Prometheus, the prequel to the blockbuster Alien motion pictures. 8. The Exodus. The whole record of the Exodus, 3, including the burning bush story, has numerous sections which could be believed to depict extraterrestrial intercession in human affairs. The mainstay of smoke by day and splendid fire around evening time that guided the Israelites through the unending desert is once in a while seen to have been an outsider guide of sorts, similar to the machine used to create the sustenance with which they continued themselves. What's more, we have composed before here on list verse about speculations that the Ark of the Covenant was genuine as well as conceivably of extraterrestrial design. Upon the Israelites landing in Mount Sinai, Moses is advised to go to the head of the mountain to meet the Lord. Again, an experience that numerous in the old Space Explorer network guaranteed to have been cooperation and impact between individuals and an outsider race. From this experience, be it with God or race of creatures from somewhere else known to man, came the stone tablets whereupon were composed the 10 Commandments. 7. Ascension of Elijah. Elijah 4, being taken by the Lord up to heaven, in a chariot of fire no less, is seen by some to act as an illustration of a stray pieces shuttle as well as of an outsider kidnapping, for sure. The primary thinking given for such an understanding is basically that the expression chariot of fire was utilized, as it was the main depiction accessible to the individuals who, evidently, saw this clearly generally entrancing of encounters. Given the number of current UFO sightings report bizarre lights or sparkling art, on the off chance that we envision for 1 second that this occasion was a nearby locating of some huge, obscure flying, gleaming item, sufficiently close to take Elijah to heaven on a tornado, at that point maybe it may be seen by the individuals who saw it as a weird chariot that was without a doubt land on fire. Maybe the fire reference was in light of seeing some sort of impetus being used upon its rising into paradise. 6. The angels at Sodom and Gomorrah. The whole episode of Sodom and Gomorrah 5, in Genesis 19 could be contended to be a case of a record of cutting-edge atomic innovation being utilized to level 2 evil urban areas. Refrain 26 discusses Lot's significant other thinking back and of how she turned into a mainstay of salt. Then, section 28 portrays how Abraham sees the destroyed city. He peered down toward Sodom and Gomorrah, toward all the place where there is the plain, and he saw thick smoke ascending from the land, similar to smoke from a heater. That's oddly like how a depiction of an atomic blast may look. If we confine a portion of the stanzas talking about the holy messengers who visit Lot, it is anything but difficult to perceive how they can be deciphered as extraterrestrials, who convey with them some sort of mechanical weapon no less. After Lot carries the heavenly attendants to his home, the whole group encompasses his property, requesting that they be brought out to them. Parcel begs them to leave the heavenly attendants be, in any event, offering one his girls to them. As the gatherings power their way into the property, refrains 10 and 11 discuss how the blessed messengers dazzled the rowdy mob, but the men inside connected and pulled Lot once again into the house and shut the entryway. At that point they struck the ones who were at the entryway of the house, youthful and old, with visual deficiency so they couldn't discover the door. Might the blessed messengers have utilized some sort of cutting-edge gadget to daze their possible aggressors? 5. The Sons of God. Maybe one of the all the more persuading references to communication among people and extraterrestrials in the Bible is to be found in the initial 4 refrains of Genesis 6: when man started to increase on the essence of the land and little girls were destined to them. The children of God saw that the girls of man were alluring. What's more, they took as their spouses any they choose. 6. The sections at that point proceed to talk about how the girls of man bore monster Nephilim kids to the children of God. While a few people immovably decipher the children of God to be a reference to outsiders, others find the term is basically a reference to the relatives of Adam and Eve's posterity, Seth. Despite the right understanding, it is one of the compositions most consistently referred to by antiquated space explorer scholars in their endeavors to demonstrate outsider inclusion in human issues in the removed past. 4. Zechariah, the Flying Scroll. In the initial refrains of Zechariah 5:7, a depiction of a flying article the length thereof is 20 cubits and the broadness thereof 10 cubits has been liable to cases of a UFO locating. It is portrayed as a flying parchment, a few variants depict it as a flying roll, and it seems, by all accounts, to be something that both showed up rapidly. I looked again and there before me was a flying parchment, and was a serious sight to behold. Although a depiction of a parchment is difficult to compare to a UFO locating from the start, when reports of stogie-molded UFOs are analyzed, of which there are numerous on record, with all the more being accounted for every year, it could be seen that a moved-up parchment would be of a comparative appearance. Notwithstanding what it really was, the estimations cited in the content are positively of something huge in the sky. 3. The Parting of the Red Sea. Before Moses could lead the exodus that we took a gander at before in the rundown, he, obviously, needed to break liberated from his Egyptian enslavers, and some portion of that story is the splitting of the Red Sea. 8. which permitted the Israelites to cross to well-being before the waters came slamming down on the Egyptian officers in pursuit. Many antiquated space explorer scholars have most likely that the Exodus itself was guided by outsider knowledge, so it is maybe nothing unexpected that they decipher a comparable inclusion in the splitting of the Red Sea so as to permit Moses and the Israelites safe section. Given that refrain 16 discusses Moses loosening up his hand, which made the ocean return by a solid east wind, it is anything but difficult to perceive any reason why some see this to be the utilization of outsider or progressed technology. Incidentally, different media stages have as of late trans stories offering different recommendations about how this may have been accomplished, mostly dependent on the possibility of a monstrosity climate episode. Additionally, Ron White made cases as far back as the 1970s that his investigation of the zone turned up what he accepted to be the remaining parts of chariots just as fossilized human remains. To Ezekiel's wheel. Certain refrains in the book of Ezekiel have lines that could be deciphered as UFO encounters. Maybe the most notable of these is the record of Ezekiel's wheel, 9. Which seems to portray a metallic item showing up from the sky. The principal refrain, for instance, expresses that the sky were opened, and I saw dreams of God. Verse 16 talks about a portrayal of a sparkling item that gave off an impression of being a wheel inside a wheel. Many reports of UFOs in contemporary occasions discuss the specialty being made of circles turning, some of the time in inverse ways to one another, driving numerous analysts to recommend this is some sort of impetus system. The depictions and resulting understandings of exactly what Ezekiel saw, regarding UFOs in the Bible, I.1. The birth, life, and death of Christ. Maybe the most celebrated Bible story of all, the introduction of Jesus Christ 10, is said by some to be jam-pressed with references to spaceships and outsider guests. Whatever the genuine sources of the story, where its underlying foundations lie, and what the real understanding may have been, on the off chance that you are somebody who is hoping to find outsider movement in the Bible, at that point this is a record that will potentially make them eat at the bit. Mary finding she is phenomenally pregnant, for instance, is regularly viewed by some in the UFO field as an old portrayal of an outsider snatching, with the embedding of an embryo in Mary's belly and directions given to her under the pretense of God. The star that manages the three wise men is another aspect of the story that is highlighted as depicting extraterrestrial intercession. Indeed, even the bizarre guests themselves have been the subject of speculations concerning their actual character in the old space explorer community. In truth, the whole existence of Jesus, on the off chance that one decides to see it in such a manner, could be said to have been flooded fault with. Thank you. Have been flooded fault with. Thank you. Have been flooded